Okay, hi there. This is the second part of the PR theory and research slides. The last video got kind of long, so I apologize, but there are a couple more slides that I want to share with you that I think are pretty important to understand. Smith talks about research and as the systematic gathering of information, and really in public relations, it is conducted pretty systematically. Um, However, there's also this aspect of academic research or scholarly research, and that'll be on the next slide. But I want you to be aware of some of the key pieces of research that go into or that connects to public relations that are pretty important. So, um, Smith talks about four different types of research or four different methods to carry out research. The first is this idea of interviews, right? Typically it's a one-to-one sort of list of questions and answer, and you generally find a person who knows what you need to know and ask her or him about that particular topic. And so it used to be that you had to do that in person or on the phone, but today it's easier than ever to do that with anybody, across the globe. You can use Skype, you can do an online chat sort of interview. So no longer do you have restrictions of, where you can afford to call, in the domestic United States or globally. You really have access to anybody. The second type, or the second method, is conducting focus groups. And this is a really cool type of, sometimes people refer to this as a group interview. I think it's a bit different in that in a focus group, you have a person who is a moderator who leads the discussion, and they are the facilitator, not an interviewer specifically. So what happens in a focus group is you get a small group together and you have a discussion. So you do have a list of questions or topics that you want to talk about as the facilitator, but really what happens and the real value of a focus group is in the interconversation or the interplay among the people in the group. So it's not one person asking the same question of each of, for example, the 7 people here in the photo. It's really the conversation that happens after the facilitator asks the question, and a couple of people have answered, and then some of the other folks say, well, yeah, I like what Jerry said, but I think about it this way in addition to that. And kind of it's the multiplied discussion rather than specifically a group interview that really provides the value. So the ideal size, gosh, I've seen numbers from 4 to 7, 8 to 12. It really depends on the purpose of what you're trying to get. And actually in this photo here, this is a great photo because you have this moderator, but then behind her you have what looks like a big mirror. And behind that mirror is actually a room, I'm going to assume, because this is generally how it looks, is a room where people can kind of be watching and listening to the focus group and what happens. Focus groups are also often recorded, video recorded, or most of the time video recorded because you want to be able to attribute who said what, but also can be audio recorded if that's not particularly important. But you really do need a good moderator, somebody who's able to not only ask questions, but to facilitate discussion and make sure that everybody's voice is heard. So that's something to think about in terms of the way you can gather data information if you are working for an organization and wanting to explore a topic or see if something's an issue. One that you're probably very familiar with, because with our lives being digital, it is very common to see digital surveys or questionnaires. And these are really, obviously one of the most common. Depending on how they're delivered, they can also be called polls, opinion polls, things like that. That most often happens when someone calls you up, whether it's used to be just on your landline, but now can also be on your cell phone line, and asks you, would you be willing to talk to me about a particular issue. It can be any kind of issue. It can be related to marketing or product, or it can be related to a particular, for example, legislative issue or something like that. So surveys are the method. The instrument that's used, interestingly, is called a questionnaire. And that's that list of questions. So if you look at this example here, this is a questionnaire about the Head Start program. And so people want, somebody wants to get perspectives from parents about the Head Start program. And so, rate your fit, or excuse me, how easy was it for you to enroll in the program? Final way to conduct research to gather data is to do what's called a content analysis. And oftentimes this is done with either a document or a series of documents, but can also be done if you look at an organization's website and all the pages related to the organization, and evaluate, analyze the contents of that particular document or website. Those are all ways that you can systematically gather information that is objective, and use that to conduct or to plan out a certain communication campaign and set of messages or something like that. So I want to talk just briefly about scholarly, which is also called academic research. And this is different from the way Smith describes research because of this element of peer review, which is you see in that secondary bullet there. So academic research, you can use any of those tools that are on the previous slide, but you can use a whole lot of other tools as well to gather data. The difference here is that this is most often conducted by people who work for universities. Also, other professionals do it, but these tend to be experts in their field. And the product here is a peer-reviewed journal article. So if you've ever had to write a research paper in a class and you needed scholarly research, that's the kind of research that we're talking about here. And just to give you a few examples of the kinds of scholarly research that are relevant, that are done in public relations, each one of these links below here, these are optional for you, link to the Journal of Public Relations Research, Public Relations Review. Those are two peer-reviewed journals in the field of public relations. The caveat there is that in order for those to work and take you directly to the publication, I believe you have to be on campus or signed in through the university library. But we have, if you're on campus and if you're a student at UNL, you have access to those journals, and it might be interesting if you're somebody who's really interested in public relations and going on and studying PR, those might be of interest to you. The Institute for Public Relations does a lot of PR research as well. The link here is not something that you have to be connected to the university libraries for, so that might be something to check out and see the kinds of research that scholarly and academic research that is done in the field of public relations. Excuse me. So the week 6 activity this week, because you have your peer feedback workshop and you have your organizational profile due this week, I thought I'd make it fairly straightforward and easy for week 6 activity. I'm going to give you some directions here. There is a quiz posted under week 6. So you can either look in the module for the link, or you can go to the assignments page, the assignments tab in Canvas, and look under week 6. The quiz does only include content from this slide presentation and the one immediately before it, the longer one. It does not include information from the slides about writing in public relations. So it's important to know that. It's a 10-point quiz. So just be aware of that. You can take it as many times as you wish. There's no limit. But that final high score, the high score will be counted towards your grade. And so you can take it right up to, it's due at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, as is always. And then what will happen is that the correct answers will be available Monday, February 20th at noon. There's a function that those answers will be made automatically available for you. So go ahead and make sure that you use either notes from this presentation, your book, your chapter from Smith, and anything else that's available to you. I really want you to know that this is not an assessment. This is not to be punitive if you don't get it right on the first try. I want this to be a learning tool rather than an assessment tool. So that's why I made it so that you can take it as many times as you like, so that you can get as high a score as you'd like to. If you do run into any problems with that quiz, please let me know as soon as possible so that I can fix that for the rest of the class, and so you guys have as much time to complete that quiz as possible. Once you finish this set of slides and the quiz, you can go ahead and go to the writing set of slides and finish out the week's activities.